What does it take to make great YouTube videos? If you want to get started in YouTube and you're worried about how expensive it's going to be to get started, well, it's not really that expensive. Probably what you're going to get in a birthday present would cover you. So the light set that you see here, plus the backdrop, is about $130 on Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description. Then you're going to want a good tripod for your camera, and the tripod probably makes more difference than the camera that you're putting it on in terms of how much impact it makes, not how much it costs. So the tripod that I'm using is a Sunpack tripod, and the real advantage of it is that it's a 61-inch tripod, which means that it's going to be at about 5'1" before you put the camera on it. Now, to get a little extra height, I keep the legs folded in, which buys me about an extra 2.5 inches. So my camera sits at about 5'3", and then the camera lens is centered about 2 inches higher than that, which makes it about 5'5", which is a little shorter than the normal person, but not a bad height. And the result is that when I'm shooting a video, I'm looking out at eye level, so it feels more like I'm talking to you than I'm talking at you. And I think it's really disconcerting when you watch a video and the person is looking at you at this kind of funny angle, or they're looking up at you, or just something awkward that doesn't feel natural. You're going to want a decent video editor, but in truth, all of the video editing that I do, you could do in Windows Movie Maker or one of the other free software that's out there, because I try and stick to cuts-only editing, and I try and do as much as possible in more or less one take. Now, doing the one-take video requires some preparation. You've probably seen some of my other videos that talk about preparing to do a video and thinking through what you're going to say as being a very important part about making a good video, or having a good conversation with people, or just life in general. Preparation's a good thing. But really, I think it adds a lot of authenticity if you can do the one-take thing. I watch Phil DeFranco, and he does I'm going to try and put my head in about the same spot so that when I screw up, you kind of only don't notice, you just kind of think you notice, but it gives you that kind of max headroom effect, where you're talking really fast, and then you've got this head, and it's over here, and then the next sentence it's way over here, and you're talking really fast, so you can't really tell that the thing was all jerky, but it's really distracting. And sometimes he gets it right and his head's in about the same spot and it feels like he just dropped a frame. But come on, we know you didn't sit there in one take. Why bother faking it? Just cut between things, or learn to do the one section you want to talk about in a single take. But Phil DeFranco is way more successful on YouTube than I am because he makes more interesting stuff, so I shouldn't comment about how Phil DeFranco makes his stuff, but I wouldn't take technical advice from Phil DeFranco about how to do technical things, and part of it is that I don't feel that he has that authenticity because he doesn't have the single shot takes. A lot of the really great videos on YouTube have no editing, and to me that is an important factor in determining whether or not I think that the person faked what they did, or whether they're telling it true, or whether they're reading it from a script. So, basically free editing software, or very cheap editing software. If you want some cheap editing software, Pinnacle Pro works very well. I upgraded a little bit to Avid and decided that I don't really like the Avid Studio as well as I like the Pinnacle Studio, even though it costs like an extra $50. But the Movie Maker will do you. A camera could be anything from an iPhone mounted on a tripod to, I have a particular DVR camera that's meant for in your car that works really well for shooting videos. Now, you may have seen some of the vlogs where I hold the camera out, and those were shot with that DVR camera. And it's a little bit of a wide angle, but if you've got a small space, that's a good thing instead of a bad thing. And this shot, I'm shooting from very far out so that you can see the light kit, but normally I do shoot at pretty close range, partly because I think that I look better if I'm only here up. Because one of the next things that you're going to need when you're shooting YouTube videos is the confidence of a god. because it doesn't matter how perfect you are, people are going to make fun of you constantly. Why are you so fat? Why didn't you shave? Why are you going bald? Why is your hair out of place? Why did you pick that ugly shirt? You dress funny, you talk funny, you look funny. Why didn't you look at the camera the whole time? Your audio wasn't as crisp as it could be. You were slightly out of focus. Your lighting could have been better. You know, your white balance was off. You know what? Screw you. I made a video to teach you something. Be thankful I did anything for you. But, you know, you are working with an audience, and the YouTube culture is such that they are constantly picking on you. So you need to be able to take that, or you're not going to make it in the YouTube space. Then there comes the learning to speak well. And this is really hard. You notice that I have practiced, or maybe you don't notice that I've practiced, but you can notice from some of my videos that I can do the very fast-paced, almost Phil DeFranco style, blah, 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 you know, just keep rattling stuff off and talking really, really fast and trying to make it make sense, but also be enunciating well enough that you can understand what I'm saying so that it doesn't just all blur together into one bit of mumble. And in order to do that, I had to practice getting my tongue to move the way that I expected it to, and the easiest way I found to do that was singing lessons. By taking singing lessons, I developed that breathing so that I can make those long sentences work, and so that I'm not constantly burping during like my talks, because the first couple of times I did the talks, there's a gnat in here, you know, apparently one of the things I need is like one of those bug things that kills stuff, but anyway, I'm distracted, and I'm doing this in one take so you get my weird distractions. But by taking singing lessons, you learn to control your breathing, because when I was first getting started, I noticed that I would breathe and I would end up with all of this like air that I was breathing, and like between sentences I'd gulp and I'd end up with air in my stomach, and so then like 4 sentences later I'd be like blah, blah, blah. And it was, you know, not attractive, and it was obvious and all sorts of things. And it also made like my stomach stick out more, which made me look more fat, which is already a problem on YouTube, and which is bad. So singing lessons, even just playing Rock Band or one of those things where you're going to sing, helps a lot with getting your breathing down. Not as much as if you go to a teacher, but if you go to a teacher, you kind of have to explain that you're not interested in learning to sing as much as you're interested in learning to breathe. And I recommend either songs in a different language so that you can learn and memorize long things of what's basically nonsense to you. I learned, you know, from an Italian opera, Vado ben spesso cangiato loco, ma non so mai, ma non so mai, ma non so mai cangiato loco. And even if you aren't getting all the pitch perfect, you're learning to control your breathing while remembering these words that don't mean anything, and that's good practice for when you're actually trying to do a speech and remember all of your talking points. The other thing that I really thought worked well for me was Irish drinking songs, because Irish drinking songs are written such that anyone can sing them, and anyone can sing them drunk, and they'll still sound okay. And from that, you can learn to do pitch shifting on the stuff that you're singing, so that you can learn to put that inflection in your voice so that you're not a monotone. You know, if you come off sounding like Ben Stein, no one is going to watch your video. If you don't know who Ben Stein is, he's the guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's like Bueller, Bueller, and he was in the eye drops commercials, and he had the When Ben Stein's Money show that was kind of like Jeopardy, but with more obscure stuff. But anyway, so Irish drinking songs. You know, so like Molly Malone. In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I once met a fishmonger named Molly Malone. She wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets bright and narrow, like her father and mother before her. And you can sing that in whatever your natural pitch is, and then you can sing it much lower. Well, if you eat your fishes, but you don't do your dishes, your house will get messy, Miss Molly Malone. And then you can sing it at a higher, almost girly pitch. She cried, cockles and mussels, a-lie-lo, 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 singing cockles and mussels, a-lie-lo. In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I once met a fishmonger named Molly Malone. But she wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets bright and narrow, singing cockles and mussels, a-lie-lo, 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 singing cockles and mussels, a-lie-lo. And by switching your pitch up, you're practicing getting that inflection and you're practicing your breathing, because it's actually pretty hard to change octave ranges or keys without taking that huge breath that would be really distracting in everything you're doing. So, that's what you need. $200 worth of lights, a nice tripod, an okay camera, a good microphone helps a lot because audio does matter, and then practice breathing and talking and singing and learning to use your tongue so that you don't stutter and say every 2 seconds. And it'd be nice if you had something interesting to say, but if you practice, that'll come.